Welcome to Lumisette Narratives, where every story whispers a truth your heart has been waiting to hear. If you've ever felt unheard, misunderstood, or quietly struggling to find your voice, this story may touch places you've kept hidden for far too long. And before we begin, if you find comfort or clarity in stories like this, feel free to subscribe or share this moment with someone who needs it. Now, let me tell you what happened to Maya and why one shift in communication changed everything. Maya hadn't always been quiet. There was a time when her laughter filled rooms, when she spoke with ease, when her thoughts flowed like water and people leaned in to listen. But somewhere between heartbreaks, disappointments, and unspoken worries, her voice began to dim. Until silence felt safer than speaking, her relationship with Daniel was the clearest proof. What once felt like an easy partnership had grown tense and fragile. Arguments flared from nowhere. A simple question became a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding became a storm. And the storm always ended the same way. Maya curled inward, Daniel walked away. And both wondered why love had become so difficult. She didn't know when it started, but she did know when she reached her breaking point. It was a cold evening in late November. Rain tapped at the windows, and the house felt colder than the weather outside. Daniel came home late, again exhausted from work. He dropped his keys on the table, sighed heavily, and said, "I can't keep doing this." Maya froze. The words hit her like a blade. "Doing what?" She whispered, double quotes, "This us. The fighting. The tension. It feels like every time I walk in the door, I'm bracing for something." She wanted to defend herself, to explain how lonely she felt, how misunderstood. Her chest burned with all the words she had swallowed for months. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came out. Daniel shook his head softly, as if he already expected her silence. He walked to the bedroom and closed the door, leaving Maya alone with her echoing thoughts. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling something inside her unravel. She realized she had spent so much energy trying not to make things worse that she had completely forgotten how to make them better. She needed help. Not a lecture, not a breakup, not another night in quiet pain. Help. And so she began searching. Not for relationship advice or quick fixes, but for understanding. A way to reach Daniel. A way to reach herself. Hours passed. Article after article blurred before her eyes, until she found something that made her sit up straight. Communicate to connect, not to win. It wasn't a rule, or a technique, or a manipulative trick wrapped in pretty language. It was a mirror. A painfully honest one. She realized that even when she wasn't trying to win, she was trying to protect her ego. Her fears, her fragile sense of being enough. But protection had built walls, and walls don't save relationships. They suffocate them. For the first time in months, she cried. Not from rage, not from hurt, from understanding. She made a decision in the quiet darkness of that night. She would try again. But differently this time. Softly, honestly, courageously. She would speak to connect, not to win. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains and found Maya sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea. Daniel walked in cautiously, as if expecting the air to crack again. But Maya looked up, at his eyes, and said something she had never said before. "I know things have been heavy between us. I want to understand what you're feeling. If you're willing to share it." Daniel blinked. It wasn't the tone he was used to. There was no defense, no tension, just an invitation. He hesitated, but then exhaled. "I feel like I'm failing you," he admitted. "I don't know how to reach you anymore. I talk, and it's like my words fall into a well." Maya's throat tightened. "I haven't known what to say," she whispered, "but I'm listening now." They talked for almost an hour. It wasn't perfect. There were pauses, tears, raw confessions. But for the first time in a long while, they weren't on opposite sides of a battle. They were on the same side, facing a shared problem, holding the same fragile hope. Over the next few weeks, Maya practiced her new mindset every day. At work, when feedback stung, she didn't shut down. Instead, she said, Help me understand what would improve this. When her sister vented her frustrations, Maya didn't rush to offer solutions. She said, "Do you want advice or just someone to listen?" And with Daniel, their conversations softened. He became more open. She became more brave. Misunderstandings still happened, but they no longer ended in silence. They ended in clarity. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching the rain, Daniel took her hand. "You've changed," he said gently. "Not in a way that feels foreign, just in a way that feels like I can finally reach you again." Maya smiled, because she felt it too. Not just between them, inside herself. She had spent years believing communication was about saying the right words, making the perfect point, or choosing the best argument. But she finally understood. Real communication is not about words at all. It's about connection, curiosity, safety, and the courage to be seen. Maya hadn't simply learned a communication skill. She had learned a new way of being, one that brought peace where there was once panic, clarity where there was once confusion, and love where there was once fear. And with that transformation, her life, her relationships, her future began to change in the quietest, most powerful way. Sometimes, the shift that saves your life isn't loud or dramatic. It's a single intention, whispered gently. I am here to connect, not to win. If Maya's journey touched something inside you, imagine what stories like this could awaken in your own life. Every day on Lumisette Narratives, we share tales that heal, inspire, and remind you of the strength you often forget you carry. If this story resonated, consider subscribing, leaving a gentle like, or sharing this with someone who may need this message today. Your support helps these stories reach the hearts they're meant for. Until tomorrow's story, take a breath, speak with intention, and remember, you're not alone on this journey.